Grandma never let anyone near her shed, but after she died, what they found inside left them speechless. Evelyn was always a quiet woman. She loved books, gardening, and drinking tea on her porch. But everyone in the family knew there was one thing she never spoke about: the old shed in her backyard. It had a heavy chain and 2 rusty locks. When someone asked about it, she'd just say, "Just junk," and change the subject. When Evelyn died at 85, her daughter Claire came to help clear out the house. Claire had asked about it many times over the years. Her mom never gave a real answer. This time, Claire decided to open it. Her husband Daniel told her to just let it go, but something didn't feel right. That night, Claire found a key hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. She walked outside, hands shaking. The key fit. The lock clicked. She opened the shed door and froze. The attic was not full of junk. Claire stood frozen in the doorway, her breath caught in her throat. Instead of dusty boxes and broken furniture, the room looked like a hidden chamber preserved from another lifetime. She stepped carefully onto the wooden floorboards, each creak echoing in the silence of the house. Along the walls, shelves had been built neatly, lined with boxes, jars, and stacks of books. In the center of the attic stood a small wooden table, and on it rested a neatly folded dress, carefully placed under a glass cover. Next to it, pinned to the beams of the attic, were dozens of photographs. Claire's heart pounded as she stepped closer. The photographs were all in black and white, some yellowed from age. They showed groups of young women standing outside stone buildings, their hair tied back with scarves. Some were smiling, others solemn. One large photo stood out from the rest. It showed her mother, Evelyn, much younger, wearing a nurse's uniform. She stood beside a tall man in military attire, and in her arms she held a baby. Claire blinked in confusion. She had never seen that man before, and she certainly had never heard about a baby. Her mother had raised her and her brother without ever mentioning another child. Her hands shook as she reached up and touched the photo, as though somehow it might give her an answer. On the table, tucked beneath the glass that held the dress, was a single envelope. The handwriting on the front stopped Claire cold. It read, "To my daughter." Her legs felt weak as she picked it up. She sat on the wooden floor, her husband Daniel hovering at the attic door, unsure whether to follow her inside. With trembling fingers, Claire opened the letter. The first line made her gasp. "Claire, there are truths I never had the courage to tell you." She kept reading, her lips moving silently as she went along. "Before you were born, I lived another life. One I locked away because the memories hurt too much. During the war, I worked as a nurse. I traveled with soldiers, patching wounds and tending to the dying. I met a man. His name was Henri. He was kind, brave, and gentle. We fell in love in the chaos of it all. The child in the photo is our son, your brother." Claire dropped the letter onto her lap, her eyes wide. She had a brother? A brother she had never been told about? She forced herself to continue. "When the war ended, I wanted to bring Henri and our son back with me. But things were complicated. Travel was restricted, papers were hard to get, and by the time I returned home, I had lost touch with them. I wrote letters for years, sending them to the last address I had in France. Some came back unopened, stamped, moved, unknown. Others disappeared into silence. I built this attic shrine because I couldn't let them go. I never told your father. I couldn't bear to break his heart. So, I locked this part of my life away. But I never stopped thinking about them." Claire's chest tightened as tears rolled down her face. She looked up at the walls again. Every item had been placed with care, not forgotten but preserved. There was a small wooden box in the corner. She crawled to it, lifted the lid, and inside found dozens of envelopes. Some were worn and soft, the ink faded. Many bore French stamps, some with bright red rejection marks. She picked up one at random and unfolded the fragile paper. It was written in French, but at the bottom, in her mother's handwriting, a translation had been scribbled. "We are safe. He grows taller each day. He asks when he will meet you." Claire's throat closed. She couldn't breathe. She handed the letter to Daniel. who read it silently, his own eyes glassy. Among the stack, one letter stood out. Unlike the others, it was newer, the paper crisp, the ink still dark. It had a return address in France and was dated just 6 years ago. Claire turned it over in her hands. Her fingers shook so badly she could barely open it. Inside, the words made her head spin. "Evelyn, if you still think of us, I am here. I am alive. My name is Louis, and I am your son. I always hoped you would write again. Please, if you read this, I want to know you." Claire clutched the letter to her chest. For years, her mother had kept this secret, living with the pain of distance and silence, and now, in Claire's hands, was proof that her mother's firstborn had lived his whole life, knowing only half the story. The next morning, Claire showed the letter to her brother. His face went pale as he read it. Neither of them spoke for a long while. Finally, he whispered, "Mom had another son, our brother." They decided together that they had to know the truth. With careful hands, Claire copied the French address written at the top of the letter. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table and wrote her own note. "My name is Claire. Evelyn was my mother. I believe I am your sister." She sealed the envelope, her hands trembling, and dropped it into the post box the next morning. Then began the longest wait of her life. Weeks passed. Every day she checked the letterbox. Some mornings she barely slept, sitting by the window before dawn, hoping to see the postman. Daniel tried to comfort her, but the unanswered silence gnawed at her insides. Then, at last, an envelope arrived. The handwriting was shaky, unfamiliar. She tore it open, her breath catching in her throat. "Dear Claire, I cannot believe this moment has finally come. Yes, Evelyn was my mother. I knew of her, though I never met her. My father, Henri, told me stories about a kind English nurse who had loved us during the war. He said she left, but never by choice. For years I wondered if she had forgotten me. I am 73 now. My name is Louis, and you are my sister." Claire burst into tears. Her brother, flesh and blood, was alive. 2 months later, Louis traveled from France to visit. Claire and her brother met him at the airport, holding a photo of Evelyn so he would recognize them. When he walked through the arrival gate, an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, Claire felt something stir deep inside her chest. The moment Louis saw the photo, he dropped his bag and wrapped his arms around her. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "I never thought I'd see family again." That afternoon, they brought him to Evelyn's house. Together, they climbed the stairs and opened the attic door. Louis stepped inside, and when his eyes fell on the photographs pinned to the beams, his legs gave way. He sank to the floor, weeping, whispering words in French that Claire couldn't understand. He touched the glass case with the folded dress, stroked the photo of Evelyn holding him as a baby, and pressed his forehead against it. "I always wondered if she remembered me," he said through tears. "Now I know." For hours they stayed in that attic, looking through the letters, the photos, and the keepsakes Evelyn had hidden away for so many years. Louis held the box of letters against his chest like it was treasure. That night, they sat around the table and shared stories, piecing together the life their mother had lived, the secret she had kept, and the family she had left behind. It wasn't easy to accept, but it gave them something precious, the missing part of their history. Claire realized then that her mother hadn't meant to keep a cruel secret. She had simply been a woman caught between duty, love, and survival. The attic wasn't a place of shame. It was a place of memory, of longing, of love that had never faded. And as Louis sat across from her, tears still shining in his eyes, Claire understood something powerful. Her mother had given her more than a mystery. She had given her a brother, a piece of family she never knew she needed.